Well, hello, that's me again. Today is September 5th. It's Thursday, I believe, 2024, no less. And let's start with something which, of course, you know, the whole world now discusses. And you know what, even the Western media reported it. Some got it right, I mean, okay. Others, I mean, there were some reactions of like, Mr. Putin, stop talking about our democracy. It is preposterous, of course, because when you listen to the people from the American media, and especially Justice Department, would also, well, essentially started sanctioning the RT, and of course started the good old story of Russian interference. And here it is, Mr. Putin interfered in U.S. elections. And as you can see yourself, what can I say, man? It just... it's pretty cool, I would say, because obviously he endorsed Harris. And even the Hill, which is supposedly, you know, some kind of the rag, you know, they're all tabloids. American journalists, I will explain to you what is American journalism in a minute. But he stated that even the Hill stated that Russian President Vladimir Putin joked Thursday, which is correct. He did joke, but of course there was a joke with the, you know, double meaning. That he's supporting Vice President Harris in the upcoming elections, citing her infectious laugh and potential to change U.S. sanctions on Russia. Earlier this year, before President Biden withdrew from the race, Putin said he preferred him over former President Trump because he was a more predictable candidate. It happened today in the Russian, it's the Far Eastern Economic Forum, which has a very impressive attendance. So Mr. Putin, in his classic way, I mean, tongue-in-cheek, he stated this. But now, guess what? Can you imagine? So if Harris wins, what is going to be? It's going to be obviously Russian interference in elections because Putin endorsed Harris. So, and this is a thing. Very many people, because they are, again, in the United States media, I'm not talking generally in Western media, they're so uncultured and they're so desperate and so actually sensitive to any kind of the, you know, outside irritant that they begin to react like clowns. And this is it. Once you are being laughed at and you cannot take a joke, it's over. It is what it is. So what can I say? And just to demonstrate to you, this is the level of DNC desperation, and here is that's the level of essentially U.S. media. And as Mr. Kissinger, you know, this veteran, you know, he flew the tanker, and he's very emotional. He loves American democracy, and he, you know, just hates Trump. He was for some reason a Republican, but whatever. He was classic rhino. And so Adam Kissinger describes when speaking at Jimmy Kimmel's show this week, which is essentially, yeah, what can you expect from Jimmy Kimmel? What can you expect from any kind of the liberal coastal cities morons who pretend that they are sophisticated? And so they are. Former Representative Adam Kinzinger, Republican Illinois, used to be, got a little too specific when he attempted to describe Donald Trump's body odor while speaking to Jimmy Kimmel this week. What did I smell like specifically, Kimmel asked. So if you take like armpits, ketchup, makeup, and a little butt, it's probably like that, all mixed up, he said. Well, that is the level of the American current political discourse and the level of American journalism. There you go. That's what they first, I would never believe that Mr. Trump, and some people make no mistake. There are a bunch of people in my comments when I say that Trump is a hot air balloon, which he is, by the way. He's a narcissist. So, but they say, oh, you don't know about Trump. Well, I know a lot about Trump in the sense how he was exposed in the media, but I can tell you immediately one thing. Kissinger he is a, mentally challenged person, and he is very, emotional. He cries all the time, and he is definitely mentally unstable, which basically qualifies him to be the big player in the media, American media and political stage. And I wouldn't buy it for a second, because Mr. Trump is a rich man, and I'm pretty sure he wears decent colognes. So, but this is the level. Okay, this also applies to the level of the, well, what can I say, the warfighting capability of the combined West, if you wish. But I will start with something which is very, very serious, and this is what many people, well, Pentagon, well, some people understand. They most probably do not. They do not understand how Russians look at the U.S. military and generally on the NATO military. And here we have this video which yesterday was posted by RT, but it's all over the place now. It is Russian POW. Nobody knows yet. Well, I'm pretty sure FSB now knows where it is, and he's being tortured by Ukrainian forces. He is being electrocuted. So, and he refuses to denounce his motherland, Russia, that means. And so, as you can see yourself, Ukrainian troops can be seen filming the brutal torture of a defiant Russian prisoner of war who refused to disparage his country and hail Kiev military in a highly disturbing video circulating on social media. And so you can go to RT. It's now official and, officially posted there. You can observe it. But this is what they teach them. They don't teach them, obviously, the real war fighting. And I am on record constantly that, yeah, in terms of war fighting, there's very little they can teach them. And they're not anecdotal anymore. It's just pretty much the very huge body of evidence by especially Ukrainian POWs, who, especially those very well trained in the West, when they explain what they have been taught. And as some people say from among them, that it's not that good at all. I mean, and you can look up actually videos of the NATO troops recently trying to, conduct the joint operations in Germany, for example, American Bundeswehr and things like that. And you can see yourself, the guys have very big problems operating with the regular map and compass, so it's just topography. It's a basic topography. This is what you are being taught in the armed forces, starting from the boot, even if you are enlisted, and especially if you operate in some kind of the recon group. And so to understand what is going on and why it all turned out to be what it turned out to be, which we can say now it's a catastrophe for armed forces of Ukraine and for their NATO curators. We can see wonderful guys from Durham, my friends from Durham, Alex and Alexander. They actually speak about this yesterday in very succinct manner. I mean, this is really how it should be titled. Ukraine blame game begins. And it did begin big time now, including, of course, by all kinds of the mainstream tabloids in United States, like MSN and all kinds of garbage like that, interviewing Mr. Zelensky. Well, Zelensky tells them the rosy picture. Oh, we achieved this. And, well, sadly, many, even the reputable alternative media channels, they use the data which is provided by the armed forces of Ukraine and Zelensky about, for example, that they somehow control 500 square miles of Kursk Oblast. Well, as I already stated, now it's reduced to less than 100 square kilometers. And again, it's not control. They are being actually literally hunted down in those forests, and all types of the attempts to resupply those troops, as you saw yourself, you cannot move there in the open. Period. You just can't. And one of the very important signs of the dynamics of the, what is becoming the, again, as already stated, safari, is the fact that, for example, Ahmad elements have been withdrawn to the Red Liman area from Kursk, because there is no necessity to maintain them there, because Russia has enough forces now to basically obliterate not only what is those remnants in Kursk, but all those reserves they try to pull into the Sumy Oblast, which itself now is on fire. And as I already stated, now it becomes obvious that Russians will actually end up conducting operations in Sumy Oblast, and that's pretty much will wrap up there, so to speak, the fate of Sumy, city of Sumy, as being part of Russian Federation. But this is in the short term. Let's take a look now what we also have there. News from this Kursk adventurism. How can I put it other than that? Yeah. So we have this situation as that Russians already know the names. They know the names, not only French, but those British, primarily British, but also Pentagon people who planned this catastrophe. And so they, as TASS reports today, a former officer of the parachute regiment of the French Armed Forces, Corte Frank Michel Mikhail, who is currently a member of the Foreign Legion of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, took part in the planning of the Ukrainian attack on the Kursk region. This was announced to reporters by the deputy head of the military civilian administration of Kharkov region for defense and security, Evgeny Lisnyak. The ex-major of the 8th Parachute Regiment of the tactical formation of the French ground forces, this Mikhail Guy, who is currently a member of the Foreign Legion and involved in the commission of war crimes in Kharkov region, took part in the planning of the invasion of the Kursk region. There are other 3 French officers, they are senior officers, and yeah, what can they do? They can commit war crimes. They are really good at raping, which already have been documented, and returning back to the, torture of Russian POW. Well, let me remind you, we have a wonderful reminiscence, of that. Remember this? That's the modus operandi. That's what they are good at. This is what they do. And there are people, obviously, who constantly, justify what they commit. And, what can I say? Well, read up again on the H.R. McMaster, former National Security Advisor, and his regiment, how they treated, for example, the Iraqi POWs. My gosh, I mean, that is really something. So, and that's what they can teach them. Obviously, as I already stated, and as correctly both Alexander and Alex from Tehran stated, and the headline reads absolutely correctly, that the blame game starts. I can only repeat what my friend Vladimir Trukhan says, and I quote him: they will not outthought us. They will not outthink us on the operational, let alone strategic level. And we saw how it all happened. They may be, just good on the tactical, operational level, something like, throw the, 13 brigades into this meat grinder, kill more than 9,500 people there of the armed forces of Ukraine and all those foreign mercenaries, and say, oh gosh, we held the some ground for several days. Well, yeah, they're holding some ground, and especially underground, but what can I say? You are talking about people who absolutely have no clue. They do not have operational experience of fighting this kind of war. Zilch. Zero. None in Pentagon has any experience of dealing with this. And sadly, many people who, there are very few serious American thinkers, military thinkers, who do understand the implications of this. As I already stated, Scott Ritter, Larry Johnson, Daniel Davis, for all my disagreements with Douglas MacGregor on his World War II knowledge, he gets it, he understands it, because he's a military professional. But the rest of them, I don't know. I really don't know what they were expecting. And yeah, as I already stated, the victories are achieved only on operational and strategic levels. I wrote their last book. My fourth book is that U.S. Army doesn't do strategy. They don't know what strategy is. They don't have the general staff structure because they don't have the organism. They don't hold this neural network, military neural network, which is created within the general staffs, because the United States doesn't have general staff. It doesn't operate as the joint force, as unified force. They have Joint Chiefs of Staff, which has about zero combat control of the armed forces of the United States, and they have commands. And those commands, you think so that they know what they're doing? No, they don't, because as you already saw yourself, they haven't been prepared, and now we have a catastrophe. So, and when we talk about this catastrophe, let's start with this very relevant thing, and I will explain to you why this matters. Here it is. We have this news, and it's all over the place. I just took the whatever was the nearest, which was X or whatever the hell the name of this thing is. So, and it's Swedish Foreign Minister Billström resigns after Russian Iskander visited Poltava. Rumors are, they're not rumors, they are fairly, how to say it, highly likely that Sweden lost the entire top management of SAP, airborne early warning and control systems. 15 trucks evacuated dead bodies, NATO troops, officers. So, well, I don't think so. It's 600, but up to 600 dead, which was, Mr. Iskander visited this school in Poltava where they prepared those drone operators and where they were preparing their crews to operate early warning system of this thing. This is Saab aircraft, which is, as you can see yourself, it has this early warning system. It is flat, and it is sort of a poor man's AVAX or E3 Sentry or A50U of Russia, which are early warning and combat management system for the air and even ground combat. So it has quite substantial dead zones. I mean, front dead zone is almost 120 degrees, and rear zones. So in order for this thing to fly, and provide some kind of the information in the air and on the ground, it needs to fly obviously in laps. That means exposing the flat, electronically scanned array towards the target, so towards the theater. So, and all this was mattered for only one thing. This is what we're talking about. And everybody were talking about this transfer of the JASM. And as I already stated, this is the older version of the data from missile threat. As you can see yourself, the United States wants to provide JASM, which is the Joint Air-to-Surface Standoff Missile. And the version they want to provide is about 1,000 kilometer range. In reality, it's more like 900 kilometer range. And that flying thing, the early warning, 2 of those aircraft which were supposed to be transferred to Ukraine were supposed to do, don't think so that, and don't even think that they were supposed to provide necessarily ground targeting. No, their task has nothing to do with ground targeting, because they wouldn't be able to reach with their radar, which their maximum range is about between 300 to 400 kilometers, depending obviously on the what is called the radar permeability or radio permeability of the environment and all other factors, and clutter and things like that. But still, their task was not to provide those targets, because the moment they will try to get into some kind of the position to scan ground or air, it would be shut down. Russians have plenty of means to do it. But why, you may ask? Well, very simple. If you take a look at JASM with its 900 kilometer range, and obviously if you will see yourself ranges which will be operating from Lvov and Ivano-Frankovsk and things like that, so average, and you can see yourself it's 902 kilometers. You can see yourself that F-16s operating from those airfields, they certainly can launch JASMs from that area. But in order for them, and you see yourself, those places are under, the attacks by ATACMS and HIMARS all the time. You see yourself that they barely reach Crimea. They do reach Crimea, of course, and you know they are absolutely obsessed with the Crimean Bridge. You listen to Mr. Petraeus, it's like he is like man-possessed. But in order for them to extend this range, they have to move from this point, which you can see to the left, and move a little bit further in order to reach Voronezh or Tula, Kaluga, which means already the satellite cities of Moscow. So they need to fly closer. And that is very dangerous. F-16 is an obsolete weapon system. It's not capable to survive modern air defense environment and air forces such as Russian Air Force. So in this case, this plane, this early warning system, was specifically about warning whatever they will be flying, F-16 or maybe some Soviet or Russian aircraft which have been integrated with the JASM, in order for them to move closer, see around if they see anything which is, from Russian Air Force, attacks them, launch and run away. That's the whole idea. Well, now they do not have specialists, evidently. Welcome to NATO for Sweden, and so what can I say? Didn't work out, all right? So, and it will not work out, but they will continue to try to, launch something here and there, try to probe Russian air defense. And don't forget, it's not static. Russian air defense is constantly improving and expanding. There are all kinds of the measures, technical character, which have been taken to make sure that nothing at all will penetrate it, and it will not at some point of time, but it takes time, as you might understand, because the realities are such that you constantly have to adapt. And so if time now to take a look at something, in terms of their losses. As you can see yourself, today's losses, well, it's hovering almost consistently every day at around 2,500 KIAs and wounded for Ukrainian armed forces. But reality is, as I already stated, and I continue to stress it, you have to multiply it by 2 to understand the real scale of the carnage visited upon them. And Russians already report that on many places there's virtually no resistance. First, there's not enough personnel. The best personnel they had have been wiped out, and wiped out, even being killed and wounded and so disabled and things like that. And very many of them are obviously missing in action. So yeah, they disposed of those 13 brigades, which took part in Kursk adventure, and that's your NATO's planning. That's everything you need to know about those guys. They probably, as I already stated, they can get some things right on the tactical operational level, operational-wise, high-level operational art. There is operations, which is this very serious hard science, which is based on the serious mathematics and the theory of probability, all kinds of things like that. It's complex, but when you talk about, this real operational art, there's no art. They don't understand it, because all their life they fought some tribes in Africa, or or they were killing Iraqi civilians or Afghan civilians. This is the level. You don't need to have much of the operational art. It was all through and through tactical level activity. That's what it was. So, and then we have for example, very peculiar map. As you can see yourself, Russians are in Selidovo, and again, this is yesterday's map. Today things change. I know every day something is being liberated, and time after time, several villages or towns are being liberated by Russians. And as here it is. This is the summary. The Kim.com, he's a famous personality, evidently. I don't really know who he is. I know he's from Germany, but he's the guy. He is the guy who actually summarized it extremely well. Ukrainian leadership is now openly talking about losing the war and blaming the West. We are months away from the end of the Zelensky regime, probably before the US elections. The Democrats and Harris would sink like the Titanic, expect desperate measures. Anything is possible. I think so, he has a point, but of course everybody understands, and even Vladimir Putin's joke or trolling, if anybody wish to see it this way, which it probably was about the warning that we hold the trump card, literally. So, and we can create a really nasty surprise before the elections. And that's what, escalation dominance gives you. But so, not to be outdone, so to speak, we have the coping on absolutely different level. And you know what? You look at this and you ask yourself, are you that desperate? And yes, here's the dude, George Allison. Look at him. He's a lovely British fella. 2 days ago in the Telegraph, it's yet another British garbage toilet paper, but still, that's the only thing they have there is the whole media is a garbage. So there might never be a better time for China to attack Russia. With everyone in Ukraine, there are probably only 2 men and dog guarding Vladivostok. Well, George Allison, I'll show you his CV. He has no clue what he's talking about. And obviously, you would expect, and as I already stated, military education and military capabilities in terms of experience and in terms of the expertise in United Kingdom are pathetic, literally kindergarten level. But look what he writes. He repeats all kinds of garbage, but he suggests China to attack Russia. With so many Russian troops tied up in Ukraine, it's hard to imagine Putin having any left to do anything about it should China decide to move north. At one point last year, then British Defense Minister Ben Wallace said that 97% of the Russian army was believed to be in Ukraine. Well, Ben Wallace is an nincompoop. He is the sergeant or probably NCO level understanding of the warfare in Russia. So, and yeah, he was a clown. Again, listen, yeah, get me the chief of the general staff of the Great Britain. That would be interesting to talk, or United Kingdom rather. These people are a joke, literally. And the only thing, as you already saw in the beginning, they can plan, the control of those, unmanned vehicles, surface vehicles, which they try to attack desperately, any kind of the asset, like they tried to do it yesterday in Novorossiysk. Everything have been repelled, and bunch of those UA, whatever surface, drones have been destroyed. But yeah, that's their level of understanding. And again, you cannot teach them anything. People ask me to make the separate video or even write an article about why we are facing the final salvos of World War II. I will explain it, because historically that's what it is. And you have this United Kingdom people. Look at this guy, George Allison, CV. What did he graduate? He graduated Glasgow Caledonian University with cybersecurity and networks. Good. He has about zero understanding what warfare is. He has maybe understanding on how to deal with some, I don't want to even, maybe he knows the graph theory and that's about it. He wouldn't understand basic fundamental issues about operational planning. Yet this guy suggests that China attacks Russia, and not understanding that Russia has actually plenty of troops already stationed in the Far East. But again, when Ben Wallace says it, what do you expect? These are brainwashed people who are still high on this delusion that UK matters. It doesn't. UK economically is a midget. It doesn't have even own a metallurgical industry, which is owned by Indians, former colony no less. The Patel, whatever the name of this thing is, which by the way also owns the some metallurgical plant, whatever remaining plant in Ukraine, which are operating now under 50% capacity, and they soon will drop below 25. After that, Patel will start withdrawing from Ukraine. But again, it's their business, I don't care. But this is the level of the cope, because as I already stated, with the whole edifice collapsing, and now when the NATO military have been portrayed and exposed to what it is, a bunch of amateurs who still think that they can play the big league. They can't. We saw ourselves what happened to those wanted weapons, all those game-changing things. They are primarily expensive junk, which is not designed to operate on the modern battlefield, let alone operate without the support of what NATO, European NATO, doesn't have: industrial might to sustain their war, unlike Russia has it. And so now for the other earth-shaking thing, but it was expected. Let's not, pretend that we didn't know that it wasn't coming. It was coming, and here it is. So Turkey officially applies to BRICS. And China and Russia in BRICS economic bloc, Kremlin says. So Yuri Ushakov, President Vladimir Putin, Foreign Affairs aide, told reporters that Turkey has submitted applications for full membership in the bloc that Russia this year chairs and will be considered. It not only will be considered, it most likely will be approved. And let me put it something interesting for you. And Scott Ritter actually beautifully elaborated on this issue with, I believe, with Judge Napolitano. It's not only the fact that Turkey is NATO member, but it's not EU member and things of this nature, which is correct. Turkey, for all its inflation and for all its problems with the economy. If you look attentively at Turkey, they call it emerging economies. Well, let me tell you something. Turkey, as an emerging economy, brings to the table 85 million people. This is a large market, large, not huge, but very large. And it brings, massive industrial capacity, which is a critical production capability, which is, of course, for example, metallurgy. Turkey has its own shipbuilding industry. For example, they built two ferries, large ferries for Russia recently. So, and they have a lot of things. But, of course, Turkey will be immediately put on the framework of the security issues related to BRICS, which is coming in Kazan in October, and they will have to really rethink their, nearest future, especially with NATO. For NATO, this is shocking, actually, and this is shocking for European Union, despite the fact that they do not want Turkey to be there. But, as I already stated, when you look at the actual economies of the European Union, they are not that big. And especially with the level of deindustrialization of Germany, which is catastrophic. And then we have, today France shut down its brand new nuclear reactor after 2 days of the working because there are some issues. There's a lot of issues in European Union, and now British come up with the idea that they wanted to develop the sixth generation fighter. People don't understand what fifth generation fighter is, and so they say, yeah, probably we will not be able to do it. Of course you will not be able to do it. They produce nothing. The only thing which they produce of real value, of course, is Rolls-Royce engines, and this is very important. But other than that, most of what you see, this BAE, British Aerospace, whatever the hell the name of it is, it's a joke. Yeah, they can produce probably some, Scout Storm Shadows. That's about it. There are some basic electronics in terms of the big league and in terms of the required industrial potential, which is required to sustain all that, they do not even register. And so this is what I wanted to tell you today, guys, about all that. And what can I say? As always, those who like what I do, please subscribe to my channel. And those who can afford, please support me on Patreon or buy me a coffee and two. And I would really appreciate you doing this. So what can I say? Have the nice rest of the week. And I probably talk to you on Saturday, I guess, before I will get busy with the home project. And I will be, sporadic here and there. Well, have a nice day, and I'll talk to you later, guys. Bye-bye.